Okay, sweet. Here we are for the last of our series, our applied neuroscience of meditation series. And for this one, up until now, I've kind of started with a talk more or less, and then we've gone into a practice and gone from there. I'd love to actually start with a practice for this one, just because I think it'll really help us sink into the concept today. And then who knows, maybe we'll do short practice and a long practice, perhaps. But let's start with the practice. So get yourself situated in a way that's going to be supportive for the next, let's say, just 10 minutes. When you feel prepared, like you've gotten your physical setup where you want it for now, you can let your eyes drift closed and just do what would be supportive and caring for your body right now, giving yourself a little rest. And as you start to let yourself rest in whatever way that looks right now, physically resting, figuring out what can settle, mentally resting, try not to just constrain yourself, push yourself, or cause yourself more disturbance. So resting, and noticing what it feels like to rest. Really soaking up this feeling of rest. Notice what your breath feels like, what feels pleasant in your body. And if it feels difficult to connect to a sense of rest, you might imagine yourself in a place or time that you remember as restful or supportive. Just allowing your guard to come down for a few moments, resting your heavy mind. And within this, noticing what sticks out to you from your experience, from the inside out. Notice comfortable things, you might notice not so comfortable things. There's no problem with any of it. Nothing to do about any of it. And if you have a sense that you need to do something, see if you can just soften and let that sense rest. Really allow yourself to lean into what feels restful about your experience now, whether it's a feeling or a sound or your breathing. Let this feeling up for a few more moments. Not trying to change anything about your experience, just noticing the way it is. If it's noisy, busy, no problem. If it's quiet, no problem. Notice the quality of your breathing, your mind, your body. As you feel ready, you can let your eyes drift open without too much of a transition. So, our topic for today is well, we've labeled it grasping and non grasping in everyday life. But really, what this is just bringing our practice to everyday life, bringing our practice to everyday life. So, naturally, that sounds pretty good. If our practice is a place of refuge and home and feels more settled and sane and peaceful. But obviously, this can be pretty difficult in different circumstances. And we all share at least one trigger that can very easily and frequently move us out of our a more non-judgmental and open state of mind. And there's plenty of others. So the topic of today kind of builds on everything that we've done thus far. First week, we focused on practice being really a matter of uh, intention, let's say. We talked about intention versus attention, and we need both for practice. Intention meaning how do we want to be rather than what do we want. Normally, when we do attention, we're paying attention to what we want. Intention is how do we want to be, no matter what's happening. One of the reasons that that's such a critical element of mindfulness practice is because of this step of bringing it into everyday life. Because as we have all found very much in our lives, things most of the time don't go exactly the way that we want. Um, Certainly, more often than not, they don't go exactly the way that we want, and often they don't go the way we want even at all. And so, if we have an orientation that's just towards attending to the things we want, we will frequently be interrupted and displeased. If we become very strong at attending to life based on the way that we want to attend to it instead, we now can use our meditation practice to actually reorient to life in a more non-judgmental, peaceful, non-violent way. So this is the step one. And actually, really, even before step one of deciding how we want to be with our experience, there's a step that comes before that, which we kind of talked about a little bit in the last few weeks, but certainly I think with most of you all, you've maybe been exposed in books about meditation, or you've heard one of us facilitators talk about it, or a different teacher somewhere. And that first part is what actually makes you come back to wanting to attend to things in a different way, let's say. What makes you want to be with something in a more peaceful way? Well, normally it's that things don't feel so peaceful. That's normally the immediate stimulus to say, oh, this is not very good. I want to do things differently. Normally, that's our mode of reset. That's often the reason that people come to meditation practice in the first place. And it's also the reason that we come back to meditation practice throughout our day, is because something doesn't feel so good. And so, actually, this is yet another reason sometimes in practice we focus on things that are physically uncomfortable. And we practice with this association between feeling discomfort, but at the same time feeling openness and non-judgment, or even maybe care or compassion towards something that's uncomfortable in our experience. This is another critical reason that we're doing that. It's because it's a bridge into our everyday life and to the reality that a lot of things aren't going to go the way that we want them to go. And we're often not going to feel the way about things that we really want to feel about them. So actually, step one before intention is actually discomfort in some way, but it's linking that discomfort that we're feeling back to our practice. It's letting discomfort be a reminder that there's a different way to do this than what I might naturally be going towards. Or maybe we're already going towards it, and then it's a reminder, okay, I'm actually doing this a way that I want to be doing. Maybe I'm not panicking so much, or maybe I'm panicking, but I'm not judging that I'm panicking. Uh, Even at that level, that's something to be celebrated. But it's really once we hit discomfort, for the most part, that we can start to have a reminder of our practice. Sometimes that discomfort, it can happen in other situations in other places. And there's wonderful, I'm sure we've all had experiences. For example, for me, and I know for many people, it's being out in nature. where you're just walking and it might even be something pleasant, and all of a sudden you are just so immensely immersed in the present. It's like you just like jumped into a pool of presence. You're like, maybe you walk out into a field or something, or you hear a bird singing and you're just like, wow, this is amazing. And you feel so alive. And so it's not only discomfort or pain or suffering. Sometimes there are other stimuli that really bring us back to, wow, okay, I'm here. But most useful and perhaps most important in our lives and most frequent, certainly, it is these uncomfortable stimuli. So we have that. Most of the time we miss these, but sometimes that's a nice little cue for us. It's almost like a meditation bell, and it can tell us, okay, so this kind of sucks. I don't love this. How do I want to be with it? And that's when we're practicing intention, what we talked about the first week. In the first week, we really talked about intention and attention. So intention comes first. And then often it can really help to have somewhere to put our mind to take it off how uncomfortable we are with our current circumstance. And so that might be our breath. We'll experiment with that a little bit in a little while. It might be feeling our feet on the ground. I've often found that to be very helpful. It could be a mantra or a phrase or a saying that we're repeating to ourselves. So there's a number of different places we can put our attention at that point. But if we're not focusing on intention when we're doing it, often we're just kind of distracting. And there's a lot of tension, to use another engine, there's a lot of tension in that distraction as well. So we're like kind of forcing or like prying our mind away rather than starting by saying, okay, how do I want to be? And then, what's going to help me? Maybe it's my attention on my feet. Maybe it's my breathing, whatever it is. So discomfort, then we have, okay, let's reset. Let's do this a different way. And as we do it a different way, we get into that second focus that we had earlier this month, which is tuning to something that feels supportive or healthy or helpful. And that's what I was just starting to get to. So perhaps this is your attention on your feet. Perhaps this is not just breathing, but I really recommend doing something like breathing kindness in towards yourself, or not just a saying, but saying something to yourself with kindness, like a sort of a mantra. So by adding in a little bit of flavor of positivity, it actually makes it easier for the mind to attend to and create a little bit more of a shift for us. And then we kind of go with this, and our last week is maybe slightly relevant here still, maybe not quite as much. Our last week was kind of uh, understanding or experiencing different stages that the mind can go through. And in this one, it is actually important. It's just a different set of stages rather than a state of uh, increasing kind of clarity and quiet with a little bit of messiness in there, which we might experience during a more solid seated meditation. These stages might be, okay, now I'm grasping. Okay, now I'm not grasping. Now I'm grasping. Now I'm not grasping. You can kind of feel this in the mind going back and forth. So it is actually a reliable, predictable stage. It might just not feel quite as progressive. When you're in this kind of, now I'm stuck on these certain thoughts. Okay, now I have a moment of relief. Now I'm stuck on these certain thoughts, relief. It can be kind of frustrating. You can start to feel a sense of uh, futility of like, okay, I keep trying to settle myself and I just keep coming back to it. So what's the point of trying to settle myself in the first place? And that's where it's really important and useful to really sink into the moments of relief And then holding those and bringing those into the moments where you get caught up again, knowing that there's still some relief and openness outside of your present experience. Hmm. Important in all of that is just being able to notice when we're what we might say is like contracted or grasped or tight. So really like our practice, and there's so many different ways we can bring it out into the world, but it's just building this association between contract and relax over and over. I wanted to do a little bit of an experiment with this. So if everybody, whatever it is, and without checking, bring your whatever your blood sugar telling device is, whether it's a glucometer or whether it's your phone. So bring it nearby without checking. And we'll do an open eyes practice. So just getting situated in your seat. And if the screen's right in front of you, you might want to push it away a little bit, or you can change the angle. You don't have to be visible, just so that you're not staring right at the screen. And I invite you to just let your eyes rest slightly in front of you and slightly down. You can let your eyelids be soft, even a little heavy. And just notice your breathing. Notice the state of your body, where there's tension, what sensations feel strong. Maybe there's something you can let go of. I'm going to ask you to do something kind of silly. Imagine that you're breathing in and out of your eyes. Even as you're breathing in and out of your eyes, see what else can settle in your body. Close attention to your breathing, to your body. If there's certain thoughts that are happening for you right now, notice those. Might even notice your heartbeat if you can feel it. This, if you do have any thoughts, notice how they might manifest as a kind of tension for you. See if you can let those settle. Wherever tension comes up, especially around a thought, seeing if you can just let it relax and keep breathing in and out of your eyes, following your breath, following your heartbeat. Notice that your mind is naturally going to move as soon as I say this next thing. As much as you can, keep it coming in and out of your eyes. Keep it with your heartbeat. Keep it with your breath. Notice it move and then bring it back. So as you're keeping it there, doing your best to not lose this breath coming in and out of your eyes, I invite you to pick up your blood sugar device slowly and gently, still breathing in and out of your eyes. And first, before using it, imagine what your blood sugar is right now and just see what happens to your breath and to your heartbeat. I don't know about you all, but I notice an immediate increase in heart rate, a little constriction, breath gets less fluid, just imagining what my blood sugar is. See if you can just let that settle and relax. What else can settle and relax? And now picking up your blood sugar device, phone or glucometer, and moving to check your blood sugar. But stay aware of your heart and your eyes. Again, notice what happens here. What happened to the quality of your breath, to your heartbeat? And when you see your blood sugar, if you've gotten there, what happens in your body? To the extent that there's any tension, Can you let that settle a little bit? You let your breath become smooth and gentle again, eventually setting it aside, your glucometer. You can let your eyes come to rest, fully close for a moment, taking a few deep breaths and just relaxing fully as much as you can. As you feel ready, you can start to close your practice, taking some deeper breaths, making some small movements, reflecting for just a moment on that. I actually have to treat a high blood sugar, so I'll be right back in about 30 seconds. But reflecting for a moment on what you felt and even seeing if you can recollect with your body and mind what that experience was each step along the way. All right. And high blood sugar down. So the everyday practice is not nearly as fun or relaxing as the normal kind of seated practice where we get to uh, be a little freer from our worries and concerns. Maybe not all the time. Oftentimes we come and do a seated practice and we're just as stressed out and occupied as we normally are. But we have a more of a chance of settling in and letting go of the day with a longer seated practice. We don't always get that opportunity in the day-to-day practice, which is kind of mirroring what we just did there of checking our blood sugar, noticing the reaction, noticing our prediction, projection, and all the while noticing what's happening in our bodies. This is, to me, one of the most critical ways of actually engaging our practice in day-to-day life. I think the only other piece to really speak about here that we didn't do today is different kinds of moving practices, which can be a really incredible bridge for us. So there's certain times and moments in everyday life where it's very easy to get caught up and thinking about other things and stressing ourselves out. But any time that we're walking can be a walking meditation practice. Any time that we're doing dishes can be a dishwashing meditation practice. So especially these kinds of maybe more like physically oriented and repetitive tasks, it's very easy to make them an embodied task. And even moments like being in the car, which I know is a stressful time for many of us, can also be an opportunity for practice. It can be either doing a practice like we just did with testing the blood sugar, of noticing, oh, my breath is getting a little shallower. This guy just cut me off or something. Um, it can be like that, or it can be a breathing practice. You can even put on a breath pacer, which can help remind you to pay attention to your breath. You can have a phrase or a mantra to say to yourself while you're driving every once in a while to bring you back to presence. So these moving practices, I think, are the other piece of bringing meditation into everyday life. I think I'll close there. I think I'll close there. So I'll end the recording, and I'd love to just open it up for conversation. Give me one moment.